Most men will never be dangerous, not to their enemies, not to the world, not even to their own weakness. They wake up every morning already defeated, scrolling, reacting, consuming, letting the world pour itself into them like an empty vessel with no will of their own. And they call that living. Machiavelli didn't write for those men. He wrote for the ones who refused to be ordinary, the ones who understood at a bone-deep level that the world is not fair, it is not kind, and it does not reward the passive, it rewards the prepared. Your brain is either a weapon or a liability. Right now, in this moment, it is one of those two things. There is no middle ground. There never was. The man who thinks slowly gets outmaneuvered. The man who thinks emotionally gets manipulated. The man who doesn't think at all gets used. And he never even feels the blade go in. But you're here. That means something. Some part of you already knows you were built for more than mediocrity. Drop in the comments right now. I am the weapon. I am the will. Say it like you mean it. Number 2, the philosophy. Machiavelli's first law of power. Machiavelli understood something that most philosophers were too afraid to say out loud. That the world is not governed by morality, it is governed by power, and the man who pretends otherwise is not noble, he is naive. He watched kingdoms rise and collapse. He studied generals, princes, and conquerors. He sat in the dirt of political exile and wrote the truth that polite society tried to bury. That men who win are not always the most virtuous, they are the most aware of human nature, aware of timing, aware of how the game is actually played beneath the surface of smiles and handshakes and false alliances. And here is the first law you must burn into your mind like iron on skin. People are not driven by logic, they are driven by self-interest. Every negotiation, every relationship, every room you walk into is a silent battlefield of competing desires, competing fears, and competing agendas. The weak man walks in thinking about what he wants to say. The powerful man walks in reading what everyone else needs, and then positions himself accordingly. That is not manipulation for its own sake. That is intelligence in motion. Machiavelli called it virtù. Not virtue in the moral sense, but the raw, disciplined capacity to act decisively in the face of chaos. Fortune, he said, favors the bold, but only the bold who are also prepared. Boldness without preparation is just recklessness dressed up in confidence, and recklessness gets men destroyed. So the first thing you must train in yourself is perception, not just seeing what is in front of you, but seeing what is beneath it, the motive behind the smile, the fear behind the aggression, the weakness hidden inside the arrogance. When you can read a room the way Machiavelli read a court, you stop being a player in someone else's game, and you start becoming the one who designs the board. Drop in the comments, I see the game, I play it better. Number 3, the mindset. Kill the soft version of yourself. There is a version of you that is comfortable, a version that negotiates with weakness, that bargains with discipline, that tells itself tomorrow when today is screaming for action. That version of you is not your friend. It is your greatest enemy, and it is living rent-free inside your skull right now, whispering reasons why you should rest, why you should wait, why you should settle for the life that is handed to you instead of seizing the one you were meant to build. Machiavelli had no patience for that man. Neither do I. The Machiavellian mindset is not about cruelty. It is about clarity. It is about stripping away every illusion you have about yourself and standing in front of the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are and who you are capable of becoming. Most men cannot do that. Most men look in the mirror and see what they want to see. A good person, a hard worker, someone who deserves more than they have. But deserving means nothing in a world that does not distribute rewards based on fairness. The world distributes rewards based on positioning, persistence, and ruthless self-awareness. You must look in that mirror and ask harder questions. Where am I soft? Where do I fold under pressure? Where do I let emotion override strategy? Where do I confuse being busy with being effective? these are not comfortable questions. They are necessary ones. The man who cannot face his own weaknesses will be forced to face them in public, at the worst possible moment, in front of the people whose respect he cannot afford to lose. Stoicism teaches you to endure. Machiavellianism teaches you to adapt. Together, they forge something the world cannot break, a mind that processes pain as data, treats setbacks as intelligence, and never, not once, mistakes temporary defeat for permanent failure. Kill the soft version of yourself before your circumstances do it for you. Go to the comments right now and type, "The soft version of me is already dead." Number 4, the discipline. The war you fight before the world wakes up. Every empire in history was built before sunrise, not metaphorically, literally. The men who changed the course of civilizations, who bent reality to their will, who outmaneuvered armies and outlasted empires, were not sleeping while the world slept. They were preparing. They were sharpening. They were doing the invisible, unglamorous, soul-crushing work that no one sees and no one applauds and no one even knows about until the results become impossible to ignore. And that invisibility, that silence before the storm, is not a sacrifice. It is a strategy. Because while the average man is recovering from last night, you are building the foundation of tomorrow. While he is scrolling through the highlight reels of other people's lives, you are constructing your own. While he is waiting for motivation to arrive like a guest he invited but cannot control, you are operating on something far more powerful than motivation. You are operating on discipline forged in darkness. Machiavelli understood that the prince who relies on luck is already half defeated. Luck is a visitor, discipline is a resident. And the man who makes discipline a permanent resident of his daily life stops needing luck the way other men do, because he has engineered so many advantages, built so many skills, and developed so many layers of capability that when opportunity finally arrives, and it always arrives, he is not scrambling to get ready. He has been ready. This is the war no one talks about because it is not cinematic. It does not look heroic from the outside. It looks like waking up when every muscle in your body is begging you to stay horizontal. It looks like sitting down to study when your mind would rather dissolve into distraction. It looks like saying no to the things that feel good in the moment, but cost you in the long run. The late nights, the empty conversations, the comfortable habits that slowly, silently eat away at the man you were supposed to become. The Stoics called this ascesis, deliberate, voluntary hardship, chosen not because it is pleasant, but because it is forging. You do not build mental toughness in comfort. You build it in the moments when comfort is available and you choose difficulty anyway. Every time you choose the harder path when the easier one is right there, you are making a deposit into an account that compounds in ways money never could. You are building an unbreakable self, a man whose word to himself means something, a man whose inner world is so disciplined and so ordered that his outer world has no choice but to eventually reflect it. That is the real war. Not against other men, against the gravitational pull of your own limitations. Fight it every single day before the world wakes up in the silence where champions are actually made. Now drop in the comments, "I war in silence. I win in public." Number 5, the strategy. Never let them see the machine running. The most dangerous men in history were not the loudest ones in the room. They were the quietest. They were the ones sitting in the corner of the court, watching, calculating, filing away every micro-expression, every contradiction, every moment where someone's words and their body language told two completely different stories. They were the ones who spoke last, and when they spoke, every word was a chess piece placed with surgical precision, not a single syllable wasted, not a single emotion unguarded. That is the level of strategic intelligence Machiavelli was pointing at when he wrote that it is better to be feared than loved. Not because fear is superior to love in some abstract moral sense, but because love is conditional and fear is consistent. People love you when it is convenient. People respect power permanently. And the first step toward commanding that kind of respect is mastering the one thing most men are completely incapable of: controlling what you reveal about yourself. Most men are open books. They tell you their plans before they execute them. They announce their ambitions before they have the strength to defend them. They broadcast their insecurities through overcompensation, their fears through aggression, their desperation through the very urgency with which they try to appear calm. They cannot help it because they have never been taught the single most powerful social skill that exists: the ability to be deliberately unreadable. When people cannot read you, they cannot predict you. When they cannot predict you, they cannot outmaneuver you. When they cannot outmaneuver you, they default to the one emotion that keeps them from ever underestimating you again: respect born from uncertainty. This is not about being cold for the sake of seeming mysterious. This is about understanding that information is currency, and every unnecessary thing you reveal about yourself is money you are handing to people who may one day use it against you. Machiavelli watched princes fall not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked discretion. They trusted too quickly, revealed too freely, and believed that openness was a virtue when in the arena of power, it is a vulnerability. So here is what you must begin practicing from this moment forward. Before you speak, ask yourself what this reveals about you. Before you react, ask yourself who benefits from seeing this reaction. Before you share your vision, ask yourself whether the person in front of you has earned the right to know where you are going. Guard your mind like a fortress. Let people see the walls, but never the interior. Let them see your results, but never your process. Let them see your confidence, but never the cost of building it. The lion does not announce the hunt. The strategist does not telegraph the move. The man who is truly dangerous operates in a silence so complete, so disciplined, so ruthlessly maintained that by the time the world sees what he has built, it is already finished, and there is nothing left to stop. Drop in the comments right now. Silent moves, loud results. That's the Machiavellian way. Number 6. The psychology. Master the human animal before it masters you. Every person you will ever meet is running a program, not a conscious one, a deep, ancient, biological program written over thousands of years of survival, competition, tribal warfare, and social hierarchy. They are not aware of it. They cannot see it from the inside. But you, if you develop the psychological intelligence that Machiavelli and every great strategist in history possessed, you will be able to see it from the outside with a clarity so sharp it will fundamentally change the way you move through every room, every relationship, and every negotiation you ever enter. Human beings are not the rational, logical, morally consistent creatures they believe themselves to be. They are emotional animals wrapped in the costume of reason, making decisions based on ego, fear, desire, and tribal instinct, and then constructing logical explanations for those decisions after the fact to protect the illusion that they are in control of themselves. This is not cynicism. This is neuroscience. This is history. This is the cold, uncomfortable truth that dark psychology has always known, and that polite society has always tried to suppress because it is far more comfortable to believe in human nobility than to accept human nature as it actually is. And here is why this matters for you. Because the man who understands human nature holds an extraordinary advantage over the man who is still operating under the illusion of it. When you understand that most conflict is not about the issue on the surface but about the ego underneath it, you stop arguing and start redirecting. When you understand that people's greatest fear is not failure but irrelevance, you know exactly what to offer and exactly what to withhold. When you understand that loyalty is not built through generosity alone, but through making someone feel that their identity is tied to your success, you stop trying to buy people and start anchoring them. This is what the great manipulators throughout history understood that their opponents never did. That the battlefield is not in the world, it is in the mind. Control the narrative inside a person's head, and you control their decisions. Control their decisions, and you control outcomes. Control outcomes consistently and systematically, and you become something most men never even come close to being: inevitable. But here is the part that separates Machiavellian intelligence from mere manipulation. The truly powerful man does not use this knowledge to destroy people. He uses it to engineer environments where the right outcomes become the path of least resistance for everyone involved. He is not pulling strings like a puppet master driven by ego. He is designing systems, shaping incentives, and positioning himself so that when people act in their own self-interest, they simultaneously advance his vision. That is mastery. That is the difference between a schemer and a strategist. The schemer tricks people once and makes an enemy. The strategist understands people so completely that they never even realize they are part of a larger design. Study human behavior the way a general studies terrain. Study what people fear, what they crave, what they cannot resist, and what wounds they are still carrying from battles they lost years ago and have never fully recovered from. That knowledge is not a weapon of cruelty. It is a map of reality. And the man with the most accurate map always finds his destination first. Go to the comments right now and drop, "I study the animal. I master the game." Number 7. The resilience. Let the fire burn you into something unbreakable. Every man who has ever achieved anything worth achieving has passed through fire. Not the metaphorical, motivational poster kind of fire that sounds poetic from a distance, but the real, suffocating, identity-dissolving kind of fire that strips you down to your absolute core and forces you to confront the most terrifying question a man can face. Who are you when everything is taken away? When the money is gone? When the relationships collapse? When the reputation you spent years carefully constructing gets dismantled in a moment? When the plan you staked everything on fails so completely that the silence afterward feels louder than any explosion? Who are you in that silence? Most men shatter there. They let the fire define them as broken. They wear their wounds like excuses, let their failures become their identity, and spend the rest of their lives shrinking themselves to fit inside the cage that their worst moment built around them. But the Machiavellian man, the man who has truly internalized the philosophy of cold, calculated, ruthless self-mastery, does something entirely different in that fire. He studies it. He does not wail at the flames. He does not beg for relief. He does not poison himself with the question of why this is happening to him, as though suffering was something that selectively targets the undeserving. He understands, at a cellular level, that adversity is not a punishment, it is a curriculum. And every curriculum has lessons, and every lesson has a price, and the man who pays the price without extracting the lesson has suffered for absolutely nothing. Machiavelli himself was tortured, literally, stretched on the rack by political enemies who wanted information he refused to give. And when they released him, when they cast him out into exile with nothing but his mind and his memories and the burning humiliation of a destroyed career, he did not collapse into bitterness. He sat down and he wrote. He transformed everything he had lost, everything he had suffered, everything he had observed in the brutal theater of Florentine politics into the most influential political philosophy the Western world has ever produced. His exile became his legacy. His destruction became his masterpiece. That is alchemy, the ancient, unglamorous, profoundly masculine art of taking the worst thing that has ever happened to you and forging it into the sharpest weapon you have ever held. The Stoics understood this too. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire while burying children, fighting endless wars, and managing a body that was slowly failing him. And he met every one of those trials not with despair, but with the cold, steady, almost terrifying composure of a man who had made his peace with reality long before reality arrived at his door. That composure was not detachment, it was preparation. It was the result of thousands of hours of mental conditioning, of deliberately rehearsing difficulty in the mind so that when difficulty arrived in the flesh, the mind already knew what to do with it. You must do the same. You must sit with discomfort before discomfort chooses you. You must practice losing before the stakes are too high to afford the lesson. You must build a relationship with pain that is not one of avoidance, but of integration, understanding that the things that threaten to break you are the very same things that, if you refuse to yield, will eventually make you impossible to break. The mountain does not apologize for being steep. The fire does not apologize for burning. And the man who reaches the summit, the man who walks out of the fire still standing, he does not apologize for being forged. Drop in the comments right now. The fire didn't break me, it built me. Number 8. The execution. Move in silence, strike with precision. There comes a point in every man's development where thinking is no longer enough, where all the philosophy, all the psychology, all the mental conditioning and strategic awareness you have accumulated must be converted into something the world can actually feel. And that conversion, that terrifying, exhilarating leap from internal preparation to external execution, is where most men permanently stall, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack vision, but because they have spent so long living inside their own minds that the moment of action feels more dangerous than the years of inaction that preceded it. And so they read one more book, attend one more seminar, build one more plan, sharpen one more strategy. Anything to postpone the moment where they must step into the arena and be judged not by their intentions, but by their results. Machiavelli had a word for this paralysis dressed up as preparation. He called it the failure of virtue, the collapse of decisive force at the precise moment it is most required, and he watched it destroy more promising men than incompetence ever did, because the incompetent man at least attempts and learns, while the paralyzed man only observes and theorizes and quietly, invisibly, devastatingly wastes the one resource that no philosophy, no discipline, no amount of mental toughness can ever recover: time. So understand this with every fiber of your being. The plan that is executed imperfectly today is worth infinitely more than the perfect plan that lives forever in your notebook, in your notes app, in the private theater of your imagination where there is no resistance, no rejection, no consequence, and no growth. Execution is not the enemy of strategy. It is the completion of it. The strategist who never acts is not a strategist. He is a spectator with sophisticated opinions, and the world does not reward spectators regardless of how refined their perspective happens to be. When you move with the cold, deliberate, unhurried precision of a man who has already seen the outcome in his mind 1,000 times before his body ever entered the room. Not recklessly, not with the frantic, scattered energy of someone trying to outrun their own self-doubt, but with the measured, purposeful, almost mechanical certainty of someone who has done the invisible work, paid the invisible price, and now moves through the world with the quiet authority of a man who knows exactly what he is capable of and has stopped needing the world's permission to demonstrate it. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man must always follow the paths beaten by great men and imitate those who have been supreme, not to copy them blindly, but to extract the architecture of their success and rebuild it with your own materials, your own context, your own unique set of weapons. Study how the men you admire most actually executed their vision, not the version their biographies romanticize, but the real, granular, uncomfortable version. The rejections they absorbed without surrendering, the pivots they made without losing direction. The moments where everything was falling apart and they continued anyway, not because they were fearless, but because they had built a relationship with fear that was so intimate, so thoroughly examined, that fear had lost its power to stop them and retained only its power to sharpen them. That is the execution mindset. Not the absence of doubt, but the domination of it. Not the absence of obstacles, but the systematic, relentless, almost joyful dismantling of them one by one until the path that once seemed impossible becomes the path that seems, in retrospect, like it was always inevitable, because the man walking it made it inevitable through 1,000 small, disciplined, courageous acts of execution that nobody saw and nobody celebrated and nobody even knew about until the results became so undeniable that the world had no choice but to take notice. Move. Execute. Dominate. Drop in the comments right now. I don't wait for the moment. I become the moment. Number 9. The legacy. Build something the world cannot erase. Every man, at some point in the quiet hours between midnight and dawn, when the noise of the world finally falls away and he is left alone with the raw, unfiltered truth of his own existence, asks himself the question that no amount of distraction, no amount of achievement, no amount of accumulated comfort can permanently silence. Does any of this mean anything? Not in the abstract philosophical sense that fills lecture halls and self-help books, but in the visceral, urgent, deeply personal sense of a man who feels time moving beneath him like a current and wonders whether the life he is building will leave any mark on the world whatsoever when he is no longer in it to defend it, to maintain it, to hold it together through the sheer force of his daily presence. This question is not weakness. It is not existential crisis. It is the most important question a man can ask himself, because the way he answers it, the depth and clarity and ruthless honesty with which he confronts it, determines not just what he does with his remaining time, but the quality of energy and intention he pours into every single action between now and his last. Machiavelli understood legacy not as vanity, but as engineering, the deliberate, strategic construction of something so structurally sound, so deeply embedded in the fabric of other people's lives and minds and systems, that it continues to operate, to influence, to expand long after the architect has left the building. He studied why some princes were remembered and others were forgotten, why some ideas survived centuries of opposition while others dissolved within a generation, and what he found was not what most men expect. It was not that the remembered ones were the most powerful in their moment. It was that they were the most intentional about what they were building beyond their moment, planting seeds in soils they knew they would never personally harvest, making moves whose full consequences would only reveal themselves in timelines that extended far beyond their own lifetimes. That is the Machiavellian definition of legacy, not a monument built to your ego, but a system built to your values, a body of work so thoroughly infused with your intelligence, your philosophy, your hard-won understanding of how the world actually operates, that it becomes a living, breathing, self-perpetuating force that carries your influence forward into rooms you will never physically enter and changes minds you will never personally meet. But here is the truth that separates the men who actually build lasting legacies from the men who merely dream about them. Legacy is not built at the end of your life in some grand, dramatic final act of creation. It is built in the accumulation of daily choices that most men consider too small to take seriously. The conversation you have today that plants an idea in someone's mind that they will carry for decades. The standard you hold yourself to in private that quietly raises the standard of everyone watching. The refusal to compromise on quality when compromise would be easier and faster and completely undetectable to anyone but yourself. The discipline you maintain on the days when no one is watching and nothing external is compelling you forward except the internal, unshakable commitment to becoming the man your vision requires you to be. Marcus Aurelius left journals he never intended to publish. Machiavelli wrote in exile with no guarantee anyone would ever read his words. They built legacy not for the applause, but because building was the expression of who they were. And the world received what they created because it could not help but be changed by the contact. You are not building for today's approval. You are not building for this month's results. You are building for the version of the world that exists after you have finished your work. A world quietly, permanently, irreversibly shaped by the fact that you were here, that you thought deeply, that you acted decisively, and that you refused, at every critical juncture when surrender would have been understandable, to be anything less than the full, dangerous, magnificent expression of everything you were capable of being. Drop in the comments right now. I'm not building for today, I'm building for eternity. Number 10. The closing. You are the weapon. Now become the war. You have made it to the end. And that alone tells me something about you, because most men did not. Most men clicked away in the first minute, returned to their comfort, returned to their scrolling, returned to the warm, familiar numbness of a life lived below their potential. But you stayed. You sat in the discomfort of truth and you did not flinch. And whether you realize it yet or not, that decision, that single act of disciplined attention in a world engineered to destroy your focus, is already evidence that the philosophy has begun its work inside you. Now hear me clearly. because this is the most important thing I will say in this entire monologue. Everything you have absorbed today means absolutely nothing if it lives only in your mind. Philosophy without application is entertainment. Strategy without execution is fiction. Discipline without consistency is a performance. The Machiavellian mind is not built in a single sitting, not forged in one powerful moment of inspiration. It is built in the 10,000 ordinary moments that follow this one. In the morning when the bed is warm and the mission is cold. In the negotiation where your ego wants to react and your training demands you calculate. In the season of invisibility when nothing is working and quitting would be rational and continuing feels insane, and you continue anyway because you have internalized something the average man will never understand. That the gap between who you are and who you are capable of becoming is not closed by talent, not by luck, not by circumstance, but by the relentless, daily, non-negotiable decision to think sharper, move smarter, endure longer, and build harder than every version of yourself that came before. Machiavelli did not promise the prince a life of ease. He promised him a life of consequence, a life where your choices ripple outward, where your preparation meets its moment, where the world feels the weight of your presence because you made yourself into something worth feeling. That is what this channel exists to build in you, one video at a time, one principle at a time, one iron layer of mental conditioning at a time, until the man sitting here at the end of this video is unrecognizable to the man who pressed play at the beginning. That transformation is not given, it is seized. So seize it every single day, without apology, without hesitation, without surrender. This is the Machiavellian mind, and you were built for exactly this. Drop in the comments one final time. I came here ordinary, I leave here dangerous. If this monologue reached something real inside you, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it tells the algorithm that this kind of content deserves to be seen. Subscribe to Machiavellian Mind and turn on notifications, because what is coming next will go even deeper. The war is just beginning, and you are ready.